Thank you all so much. I spoke to you a lot about chance and no chance and that sort of thing. And as a lead perhaps into the next talk that I'm going to give the microphone to Jacqueline now. And she will tell you a little bit maybe of how chance works to bring me here to you today. The strange things about that, so I will let her do that. And I want you to understand that when Jacqueline speaks, she tries to be in close communication with the Lord. And so if she pauses, you think, oh, she doesn't know where she's going. That's not it. The Lord is speaking to her. She needs to wait for Him to make it clear. So there's a rhythm to the way she speaks, and you need to adjust. You need to reverence that rhythm as she tries to reverence the rhythm of the Lord. So I'll let Jacqueline talk a little bit about what she knows about chance. All right?
Isn't Bishop amazing? It's a It's hard to actually speak after him, but it's okay. I've known him for 9 years now.
And all my life.
And all his life. That's what he wanted. And all my life, it seems. The bishop was speaking about chance this morning. And I just wanted to let you know my story and how we actually met and how a bishop from Kansas in the middle of the plains came here to Vancouver. About 9 years ago, I was requested by the bishop to go down to Dodge City, Kansas to pray for some of his priests, particularly one priest. And when I saw Bishop Gilmore, I saw a very interesting ribbon. It looked like a ribbon, it looked like his little red sash. And it was something with the words, the Lord is my shepherd. And I thought that was very interesting. And then later, as I saw him and I was praying inside of me, and not just the prayer that was like, oh, dear Lord, make it go right, make this meeting be an abundant, fruitful meeting for me. But it was that interior prayer that said, Lord, what are you trying to show me about this bishop who's a few times taller than I am? I had to mention that. And I realized, as I actually paused and looked at him and prayed, the Holy Spirit gave me a word, well, lots of words, and it was my time to listen. What he showed me was a reading, a particular reading from Baruch 5. Don't know if you're familiar with it, but it said something like, he will bear the mitre on his head and proclaim the glory to the world that he is who he is, which is who you are. The specialness and the uniqueness of him. I told Bishop Gilmore this, and he's like, yeah, right, whatever. And he just shaked it off, and I thought, okay, this is fine. But throughout the last 9 years, I kept hearing this, and I kept seeing this, and I kept saying, Bishop, you're meant for something incredible. You're meant to go out there and speak to the priests and bring them a sense of renewal. You're meant to do this in a way that is a call within your call, which is, the bishop was talking about being a bishop, but his call is proclaiming to the Lord, to the world, to all of us, that there is a certain beauty in prayer, and a beauty in silence, and a beauty in the way that people respond to the Lord in silence of the Word. So finally, tomorrow we have a Mass. It's Sunday Mass. As I was looking through the Gospel, because we will be reflecting on the Gospel later, the same reading that I saw 9 years ago with Bishop Gilmore will be read tomorrow. And that is not by chance. And it's not by chance that then he is here. And then now that he's here, it's almost like a celebration. It says, here you are. You made it because you followed me. And that's how the Lord has his hand in all things. So I think that was a reality happening. And so here we are having a bishop in Kansas doing what he is doing best, which is proclaiming and bringing us and drawing us into the Word. I've never felt so blessed, lucky in my life, just knowing that there's someone I can speak to. Because as we all know in ministry, it can be a lonely experience. And so we look at the people who we like and we are drawn to, and the Lord draws us to, and we continue on in our journey, but with the people who are surrounding us, who are like-minded and pure in spirit. So I pray for each one of you, for someone to come to your life, whether you're in whatever ministry you're in, so that you receive a greater strength and a greater anointing from the Lord. And the bishop's going to speak more about another topic, I think. Are you ready? Continuation of the same topic. And then I will help to give another example.
Very good. Thank you, Jacqueline.
This is not another topic, really. It's a continuation of the same, of course. The whole topic is prayer. How to pray in the Spirit. That's what we're calling it. Okay? Back in the 1970s, I was a vocation director for the Diocese of Wichita. And part of that job for me, was recruiting, new young men to come into the seminary to be ordained priest. And part of the work was that I interviewed all the potential seminarians who were applying to become priests for the Diocese of Wichita. Okay? I got to sit down with them. And when I did that, what I would do would be to look at their family history, very important, a major determinant of how we grow and how we develop. I look at their family history. I look at their academic history. I'd always ask them, okay, are you a numbers man or a word man? What? What are you talking about? Well, lots of people are very, very skilled with numbers, math, science, and all that sort of thing. And to study theology, you have to have a certain affinity for the Word, too. You have to have a certain affinity for history. That's the way the Lord comes to us, mediated through history. And after all, you have to have an affinity for the Word. Why? Because Jesus was the Word of God. So I would look at their family history, their academic history. I look at their work history. I can tell you, I didn't realize this when I was a priest, but I realize it now as a bishop. You really have to know something about their work history. How well do they play with others? In the sandbox, how well do they do that? How well do they play with others? How well do they work with others? Because once you ordain a priest, he is yours. You are responsible for him. He is incarnated in the diocese. I look at their work history, and especially, of course, I was interested in their spiritual history. I was interested in how they thought about God, how they related to God, how they prayed to God. That's what I was really interested in, okay? I was especially interested in how they're praying, and interested in showing them what our tradition tells us about this authentic prayer, okay? And what I would do when I would interview them, at some point I'd take all this facts down, this sort of thing, and then I would make a judgment and pass it on to the bishop, recommendation, pass it on to the bishop. Take all that information down, and at some point in the conversation I would tell them, when I was a little boy, everybody likes a story. When I was a little boy, there was a big elm tree in my front yard. Big elm tree.
It was a tree, you see, and it was big, and I was a boy, you see, and I was little. Get the picture. But big, tall, little, short, none of that made any difference. I was a boy, you see, and therefore I had to climb that tree. I had to climb that tree. Otherwise, I would have been drummed out of the corps. I would have been banished from the boys of the world. What self-respecting boy can't climb a tree? I asked him. You understand what I'm saying? I had to climb that tree. Otherwise, I would have to slink away into my own little cave. I could never face another boy again. I couldn't do it. I had to climb that tree. There were no two ways about it. It was there. I was there. It had to be done. It had to be done. You understand? All right. But the problem was, I was afraid of it. You understand? I was afraid of the tree. What I mean is, heights scared me then, as a little boy. And I'll confess to you, heights scare me now, as a big boy. For example, I don't drive mountain roads. I white knuckle them. You know the difference? Yeah, you know the difference. I stay closer away from the edge of the road. I shave off part of the mountain going down the road. I white knuckle these things, but didn't matter. There it was, and there I was, and my duty was stern. It was demanding, but oh my, was it ever clear. I had to climb that tree. Okay. You with me? So, in fear and trembling, I stepped out to do the honorable things. Stepped out to do the honorable things. I started up. Started up the tree. You have to understand that when I started up, I was hanging on tightly with every arm at my disposal. Only two. I used them all. Every arm at my disposal and every hand at my disposal, I was hanging on tightly. I was hanging on tightly with every fingernail, with every thigh, with every knee, with every calf and every toe I had. I was hanging on tightly. I'm playing with you, but I'm serious about being afraid of heights. I was hanging on with everything I had. I was hanging on with perspiration pouring out of me, or fear, I suppose it was probably fear actually. Hanging on with perspiration pouring out of me, with eyes stinging, with all that happening, I was hanging on. High I went. Up I went. Higher. Higher. Slowly. Up. A little more. Just a little more, I told myself. I could reach up and touch that big branch just above me. If I could do that and touch the nest that the branch held, if I could just get that high, I'd declare victory and go home. I'd say, I won. I climbed the tree, right? Nobody had to know how high it went. If I could just get to that one branch, I'd declare victory and go home. So, you can understand what I did. I stretched, up, stretched, I reached, I strained. You understand the strain? Little kid, afraid of the tree. Strained, and finally, I touched the rim of the nest. You with me now? Touched the rim of the nest. And I was just able to kind of go down the side of the rim into the nest. understand? Do you have the picture? Do you feel the physical strain hanging on with all those arms? You feel the fear? You feel the flagging nerve? I was running out of boldness, folks. I was ready to go down. You can understand how it was. Well, if you understand that, if you're with me, if you have that picture, if you know what I'm talking about, then you will grasp easily what a shock it was. A shock it was. What do I mean? What I thought was empty was not. As I reached down into that nest, something moved. Something was alive in that nest. You think of all the anticipation, all the fear, all the stretching, all the physical straining. Bang! I did what every living creature does when this kind of thing happens. Did you ever see a puppy? Did you ever see a puppy meeting a butterfly for the first time? Ever see that? This little puppy is so curious. He's running around, he's playing, he's jumping, he's enjoying being a puppy. And he sees this beautiful creature in front of him, and the first time he's ever seen a butterfly, he comes up and he gets close. And you know what happens? When the wings move, you know what the puppy does? The puppy jumps. Jumps back. The puppy recoils. Why? Because it touched a moving thing. It touched a living thing. And I'll tell you, that was my reaction too. I did what the puppy did. I didn't jump off the tree, but I certainly yanked my hand back with the speed of light. I want you to grasp that shock of a living thing. When I did that and pulled my hand back, what I was doing was becoming aware that I touched a small living thing. And I therefore did the most natural thing. I tried not to hurt it. I tried to respect it. I tried to reverence it because it was alive. That's what the puppy does with the butterfly. That's what we're supposed to do with one another. That's the way families are supposed to work. That respect for one another, that reverence for one another, that joy, that meeting a living thing. That extraordinary. So I told the seminaries that story, and what I would ask them was, did you, in your prayer, did you ever experience anything like that? Did you ever have a shock like that? Were you there reading your prayer book, saying all your prayers, being very busy, doing your arithmetic? Were you there doing all that? And all of a sudden, something was there. That's the way I want you to pray. That's the way our tradition tells us we should pray. That's what I was talking about earlier with praying in the Spirit. You know, the wonderful passage from St. Paul, Romans 8, 20, 26, 27, I think. Wonderful passage. We don't know how to pray as we ought. The Lord sends the Spirit to pray in us. He intercedes for us with words, with sounds, with groanings, with sighs. It's really deep for words. That's happening. You have touched a living thing. Oh, that's not quite right. The living thing has touched you. The source of all living things has touched you. Okay? So I wanted them to pray that way. I wanted them to keep at it. I wanted them to stay with it until they touch a moving thing. Until they touch a living thing, which, as I told you, it's really me. He's touching you. Okay? Until you were startled by the presence of another in their prayer. Another who was not themselves. Lots of times people pray. They get all wrapped up in their own, they build castles in the sky. Jacqueline is a trained architect, so
She sometimes builds castles in the sky, and beautiful castles, and she paints pictures of them sometimes too. She's an artist. But you can get too wrapped up in that, and you forget why you're there. You forget the one you came to spend time with. You understand where I'm going, okay? I wanted to pray that way until they were speechless at the presence of another person, human but beyond human, until the divine itself slowly dawned upon them. That's the way I want to pray. And that's what I look for in those days for potential seminarians. As a bishop, when I was interviewing seminarians, that's what I was looking for, that kind of prayer. I had a spiritual director years ago. I went to school in Ottawa, did I tell you that? Yeah, I was in school in Ottawa for 6 years. Had a wonderful man. Spiritual director, he was a canon lawyer. And he just had the most wonderful name in the world, Germain Lesage. Germain, the wise one. That a wonderful name for spiritual director. And Father Lesage always used to tell me that, if when you pray, you go to see him. He didn't beat around the bush. He wasn't interested in how your mother was, what you ate for dinner on Friday. You wasn't interested in any of that stuff. He was interested in, are you getting in touch? Are you sticking your hand in the nest and being starved? That's what he was doing. When I look for seminaries, that's what I was looking for in. Okay, I'm going to find it. When I do spiritual direction, now that I've been retired for roughly going on 2 years now, and now that I do the spiritual direction with a lot of priests in my diocese and priests from other dioceses in the country, that's what I really wanted to focus on. I guess old Father Lesage, God rest his soul, taught me well, because that's what I'm interested in. The priest stuff would do. That's what I'm interested in with you. That's the thing I try to do when I give talks like this, talks on prayer. I want you to go beyond thinking of prayer as a vocal thing only. I want you to get beyond thinking of prayer as a liturgical action only. I want you to think of prayer as the Spirit who lives inside you, speaking to you, lighting up your life, helping you understand that His ways are not your ways. We always get it backwards, though. But our ways always seem the best way to life. But He teaches that that's not the case. Okay? So that's what I'm always looking for whenever I do what I'm doing. It comes down to this, ladies and gentlemen. As a spiritual director, I know that no woman really needs me. I know that no man really needs me. When God is present, where there is movement in the nest of prayer, I am perfectly happy to recoil, perfectly happy to jump back, because the Lord and you will work that out for yourself. I can kind of set the stage, I can set the table, I can prepare the way, I can suggest this thing or that thing to dispose you better to listening to the Lord. But once I find He's there working, you don't need me. I'm an obstacle. I get in the way. Listen to the Lord. Listen. I have a very hard time when I pray because I'm so cerebral. In fact, I have too damn many books. Right? I sometimes pray, and I have a library downstairs in my house, and I walk up and down and pray there. And it's very easy for me to be tempted to go to the shelf and get that book. If I could just remember what page that was on, that would solve my difficulty. What am I doing? I'm doing it with I'm not paying attention to God. The best way to pay attention to God. You know the old story, St. John Vianney, Curé of Ars, Father Pierre, I think he just came back from Ars one year for 1 week, for a 7-day retreat, I think he was saying. Wonderful old story. There was an old man in the parish
Ours was a very tiny village, a little hamlet, right? Very poor people, uneducated, unlettered. And Jean would see this old man, with his clawed, kind of shoes, tramping up to the door, taking his shoes off, going inside the church. And he would sit there for hours. And that kind of piqued the good curator's attention. So I asked him one time, I see you come to the church all the time, and you pray and you're here for a long time. What do you say? What do you do while you're there? And the poor old man, unlettered, I don't do anything. I just look at him, and he just looks at me. That is the kind of prayer I would do. I just look at him, he just looks at me. That's inspired, that's infused contemplation. Now, we're in Advent season now, where we're preparing for Christmas, and the society outside of us is preparing for Christmas in a bigger, more flashy, secular way, obviously. They want you to go shopping, they want you to go shopping, they want you to go shopping, they want you to spend your money on, and your economy, you've got to be a good Canadian citizen and help the economy. That's what they tell us at home. President George Bush, who just finished his term not so long ago, he used to say, go out, what you can do for the economy? Go shopping! Well, I don't know if that's quite the answer to the question, but we're living through all that. The anticipation for Christmas is growing, right? Christmas is growing. Now, anticipation is one kind. When what you're anticipating, Christmas is a family feast sometimes, and family comes home, right? And you renew the old ties and the old bonds and that sort of thing. So it's one thing to prepare for that to happen, and it can be a source of great stress for people, I understand. It's one thing to prepare for that to happen. You're preparing for human beings to come home. Okay? You're in the diocese right now. You're doing this massive come home campaign. You're reaching out to those who have drifted away, inviting them back home. And it's one thing to anticipate human beings coming back home, but it's another thing altogether to anticipate someone coming who is more than human, who's beyond human. If I come up to the door of your door lugging 6 suitcases, you can anticipate me coming, and if you kind of moan under your breath that I got all this stuff, and where are you going to put it, and all that kind of stuff, I'll mess up your house and that kind of thing. You'll react to me in that way. But when someone who is more than human comes, that changes the equation. That changes the contours of the meeting. That requires a little more refinement in your listening, refinement in your seeing. See what I'm getting at? You want to get to the real God, not the one you're making of your image. Get to the real God. When that someone is not human, when that someone is divine, that changes things for us. It puts us in a strange new world. It requires us to learn newer, subtler ways of doing things, okay? The someone of prayer that I'm interested in your finding is not you. See, I don't want you to daydream through it all. I want you to be attentive to the one who is to come. That's the heart of the Advent season. The one who is to come. Be attentive to him. The someone in prayer is different from every other someone you know. Different. We're no longer talking about a mere human person. We're talking about a person who is God as well as man. We say in our theology that there are 2 separate natures, 2 whats in God and one person. One who in God. There is a full divine nature in the Son of Man. There is a full human nature in the Son of Man. Held together by a single person. But don't stop there. That's a stunning mystery itself. We'll never get to the bottom of that. Don't stop there. We're talking about a startling diversity inside the world of God Himself. Inside God Himself. See, the way that I can maybe help you think about this, for you and for me, we exhaust ourselves in being one person, one single person. That take all the energy of human nature, and you give it. I sometimes think of the person that, in the old days, people used to iron. Remember that? That's still in fashion at all. In the old days, people used to iron. They would put a lot of starch in their clothes, a lot of starch in their shirts, right? I sometimes think that when the Lord makes you, He gives you a human nature, and He kind of pours in a little starch of personhood, and that enables the human nature to stand on its own, to be a concrete human person. That's the way it works. So there's enough mystery in that to get us, but with God, you and I exhaust ourselves in being one person. Not so with God. He does not exhaust Himself in being one person. There is a wondrous diversity inside God Himself. There is the source of all that is divine, the Father. There is the exact expression of all that is divine. That we would always like, I tend to be a writer, and I always like to find just the right word to say something. And I can't do it, but He did. He gathered up all that was in His heart, all that was in His godliness, and He said it in a single word. And the word was His Son. He could say it all in one powerful word. He has no more to say. He already said it. Now, lots of times people, when they go up the spiritual path and ready with the spiritual life, they would like to have new revelations from God. Why? He already said it. Look at the pages of the New Testament. There it is. Jesus is God sent in human form. You know different languages? God translated Himself into human. Wonderful. This mystery of the Trinity. You and I exhaust yourself being a single person. God does not. There's a communion of persons at the heart of God. And that's the communion in whose image we were made, and the communion we're called to share. Okay? Now, I want you to understand this, because I find over and over again people are kind of missing this point. When we come to share this communion through faith now and through the beatific vision later, when we come to share this, we do not thereby become God. Okay? God gets to be God. We don't. We remain human. The Creator gets to be Creator. We get to be creature. Okay? So we don't become God. A lot of people have the impression that, a lot of the New Age thinking, and they say, well, I'm just like a drop of water, and you drop me slowly into the sea, and I'm absorbed by the sea. I disappear. You don't disappear when you get close to God. You become more who you are. You become more who you were made to be. You don't disappear. You don't become God. You don't become just a part of this amorphous sea. You remain. Why? Because He loves you. He couldn't have withstand the world without you in it. That's why. You're that precious to him. Okay? So we don't become God. Creator remains creator. Creature remains creature. The union we speak of is not our own extinction, for heaven's sake. That would be a very poor way of saying thank you to God for creating me if I wanted to be extinct. If I wanted to mix in a great wide sea circling all the earth. That would be a bad way to think about God. We don't want to become extinct. The union we have with Him is a union of two distinct persons. If there's one thing that's clear about God is He respects you so much. He made you with mind and will and heart. He made you free. He's going to invite you and invite you and invite you. He's going to arrange and rearrange things in your life and try to intervene in your life in a variety of extraordinary ways. But He is never going to force you to respond to Him. He's never going to demand that you do this. It's always an inviting God. Be kind of a poor if you made people do something in order to have you love. That's not the way it works. Now, when I say we remain distinct, it doesn't mean that no change takes place in us. It surely does. But the change is that we become more like the one who made us, the one who redeemed us. We take on His attitude, His way of judging, His way of seeing, His way of feeling. We are transformed into that. That happens in the school of prayer. We become adopted children of God, sons of God, daughters of God. He takes us into His own home, into His own family. He remains Himself, a trinity of persons and a unity of nature. He remains different from us. He remains unique. He's the source of us, source of all that is. He remains God. The real God. Now, there's a little secret I have to share with you. What we try to do is we try to turn God's way upside down. We try to do that. What usually happens is this. He made us, you know the book of Genesis? He made us in His own image and likeness. In the image and likeness of God we're made. Male and female were made. He made us in His own image and likeness. Okay? In all the years of human history since, all the years from the beginning of the world since, we have never stopped trying to return the favor. He made us in His own image and likeness, and we have never stopped trying to return the favor. We have never stopped trying to remake Him in our own image and likeness. Think about it now. We do that all the time. We have always been bent on shrinking God. We've always been bent on trying to cut Him down to our size. He's not your size. He can't wear my casket. God is God. God is vastness. We're always trying to cut Him down to size. We reduced the great God to just one among many gods. And what are those gods we usually have? Pleasure, wealth, power, status, new condo, new car, new boat. I used to tell the fellow who runs the gas station where I buy gas, oh, I see the price of gas went up again today. It must be time for Kevin to buy a new boat. We allow these other things to be God. The things things that drive us, the things that engage us, the things that move us forward. We reduce the great God, the God, to all these minor things. That's a recipe for disaster. That you're walking the road, you're never going to get anywhere on that one. We do that to God. We reduce him from the beginning and the end of the universe to just a benighted private fad. You know, in my country now we have a big problem with religious liberty, and the president wants to redefine what religious liberty means. He wants to tell us that it means you can go to church, it means you can say your prayers, it means you can do your arithmetic every day, you can do all those things, as long as it's a private thing. You know. Don't interfere. It's all very harmless. It's benign, as they say, poor creatures, they don't know any better. But let them do it. And they're harmless unless they try to mix in politics. Oh, then it gets dicey. They try to mix in politics. So that's happening in our country right now. We reduce the beginning and the end of the universe to just a private fad, a personal thing, doesn't affect anybody else. Well, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot be a Christian. You cannot follow Jesus Christ without pouring yourself out for love of God and for love of neighbor. Whatever you believe internally has to have an external sign to it. You know, we have to tell the world what we've seen and heard of God. We have to tell the world what we think should be done, the art of living humanly. We need to tell the world those things. We can't just reduce it, cut down to our size, but we try to do that. What we do, you never hear the old phrase in the Bible, lovely phrase, the Lion of Judah. Hear that? The lion. You know what a lion is? Magnificent creature, big mane. The lions who do all the work are the women lions, of course. They don't look so pretty, but the lions are big mane, and the Chronicles of Narnia, and all that stuff about the lion. The Lion of Judah. What we do, we try to return the favor to God, remake him in our own image. We take the Lion of Judah, free, this creature, wild, this creature, unpredictable, this creature, surpassingly beautiful, this creature. We take the Lion of Judah and we turn him into a tame house cat. Right? We do that. He made us in his image and likeness. We do the same. But what we do is to take this magnificent, free, wild source of all life and turn him into a tame house cat that we control. Thank you. That we control. That's what we normally do. And that's no way to pray. That doesn't get you anywhere. Prayer is this conversation with God, this exchange with God. We tend always to domesticate God. He can't be domesticated. He's wild. He's free. He's God. He's going to do unpredictable things in your life. If you let him. If you're aware of it. What we try to do in our misguided prayer doesn't really change what he really is. He remains God. He's unique. He's unfathomable. Once we grasp that, we should have the effect of being lost in wonder and gratitude and reverence toward him. That should be the effect. When we're aware that we're not remaking him, we're not cutting him down to our size, we're letting him be God. And he, it is this magnificent source of life is coming into our life. Once we grasp that, we should be lost in wonder and reverence. We should be intensely curious about how he approaches us. I'll talk about that this afternoon. We're intensely curious about that. we should be intensely curious about how he speaks to us. You know, we have a lot of you are Filipino descent. We have Filipino priests in my diocese from the Diocese of Sorsogon and the Diocese of Modern UK. Did I pronounce that? Somebody the other day? And they do wonderful work. And lots of people say, oh gosh, you know, I have old Irish, German people in my diocese. Oh, we can't understand him. You know what? I tell them, try to understand. Your ear will get adjusted to whatever accent there is. Just try. If you don't try, how in the world do you ever expect to understand Jesus? He didn't speak the King's English. Oh, Queen, I guess, right? He didn't speak the Queen's English. How are you going to understand him? You have to adjust your ear to his accent. That's immeasurably more difficult than adjusting your ear to the accent of a foreign priest. Immeasurably more difficult. We need, you and I, to develop that facility. I know you have it in spades in Vancouver because you have so many ethnic groups and you're very free and easy, more so than we are in the States. You know, most of my diocese is about 60% Spanish-speaking first language. So I get a lot of Anglos saying, this is not the church I grew up in. I don't like this. I can't understand them. You're more, I think, adept at that, more at ease with that than we are. It's a major hurdle for us to climb. We want to be intensely curious about how he speaks to us, about how he knows us, about how he loves us, about where he's leading us. You know, that's it. Because you've been married 50 years, you say, but that's my vocation. I've done it. It's over. Yeah, no. You're going on till 3 days after your last breath, probably. The Lord's still working in you. You know, if you are sufficiently purified, sufficiently ready to meet the Lord when you die, you will meet the Lord when you die. If you're not, there will be that period of continuing purification. That's what we call purgatory. So what I need you to remember always is that, you know what? Your life is a love story. Okay? Who doesn't love a love story? Everybody loves a love story. Your life is a love story. I tell you the truth. I don't think you read this in the theology books, but I'm going to give you this revelation today. God is an incurable romantic. Incurable romantic. God loves a story. He loves a crackling good story. That's why you have the Old Testament. All those wonderful stories. God loves a good story, and especially, he loves a good love story. And you are that. Men have to kind of adjust themselves to fit in this thing, but the Lord loves you in that way. He loves you as your wife loved you. The Lord loves that. Your life is an unfolding love story. As I say, it's deepening, ever deepening. And the other thing the Lord loves is a good adventure story. Adventure story. I can tell you, when I was a young priest, I couldn't do this. But the older I get, when I get up each day, it's really a new adventure for me. I didn't know who was going to be here. I didn't know what I was getting into when I came to Canada, to British Columbia. I didn't know what to expect. Jacqueline tried to scare me off. You're too this and too that. You won't understand you, but I hope I'm getting through a little bit. I didn't know what to expect. It's an adventure. I didn't know. I know I would take a chance going to a strange place and speaking to people I don't know. But I have to give you the word the Lord gives me. And that's what I've tried to do thus far, these 2 talks so far. And we'll try to do that again this afternoon. Jacqueline, would you like to question or comment or add anything to this? I don't know. I'm lost of time. I'm still in Kansas town.
I think I'll have a couple of comments, about 6 minutes, because it's going to be...
No,
Yeah. Can I do that now?
Right.
Okay.
I really want to speak about just a little bit about Bishop's experience with his little animal that he touched in the nest, and how he touched it and he recoiled in excitement and fright. And do you realize who here has pets? Yeah, there's quite a few people who have pets. And a woman just told me a story. Actually, she's sitting over there. And she was telling me about her pet and how when you're coming up the driveway, they can hear you from miles away. And they can hear you coming. And I think that's a wonderful analogy for the Spirit helping us, knowing that we're trying to pray. And realizing that we are coming to Him, and that He's also groaning like a whale, I'm saying like a whale, like dogs can hear like whales. We've heard that whales can hear through sonar sound, underwater sound. They can hear and can feel the presence. Well, the Lord can feel us, I think, trying to pray, and we can respond in kind. What we need, though, is the Holy Spirit. I was thinking Romans 8:26-27. And this might help. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express. And He who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints in accordance with God's will. I find that to be very powerful in my prayer life, because in my ministry, I do spend a lot of time in personal prayer, and especially quiet prayer, because I need that to strengthen me. I'm not the smoothest speaker like Bishop Gilmore is. He's had a lot more experience, which is wonderful. But I do want to get across to that. When I spend time in prayer, it's not easy also. It's not easy. I'm sure some of us say, prayer is great. We can fall into it, and it's wonderful. But I had an experience in the summer. This summer, I had experienced my first 5-day silent retreat. Being silent for me is really hard. I was calling him, and I was on the ceiling, and he was like, just quiet, quiet, quiet. Do what? Just quiet, okay. So I was being quiet. But I realized during this retreat that what I wanted was prayer. And I was asking the Lord for this and that, and so many things in my life that I wanted Him to just answer. Like I wanted, I wanted a puppy. I still want a dog. And I keep telling everyone I know I want a dog. I'm not going to get it, but that's okay. But the truth was, in the 4 days that I spent before the retreat, during the retreat, I spent those 4 days not wanting to listen to the Lord. I literally did everything I could so I couldn't listen to Him. And the reason why I didn't want to listen to Him was because I knew that if He spoke to me, if He helped me, if He heals me, then I would have to go deep into myself and find the things within me that I was doing right and all the things that I was doing wrong. And I thought that was scary as heck. Because if He knew that, and I always knew He knew that, but then it was up to me to realize that I had to say it. I had to reveal it to myself. To say, yeah, maybe I'm not praying enough. Or maybe I'm not heading towards in the right direction where the Lord is leading me. And that scared me. And I thought, well, but Lord loves me. He loves me a great deal. Why should I be scared? And then even that scared me. But in that fear, I found that what was getting me more anxious was me realizing that I wasn't getting my answers answered. And when I finally let go, I said, Lord, I want the real, authentic you. I felt that in the 5th day of my retreat, I wanted to be at peace because I can feel me on the ceiling. When I'm on the ceiling, it's real bad. So it's just something that I wanted. I wanted to really fight the distraction I had to not listen to what the Lord wanted me to do, because I wanted to be in control. I wanted to be in control of my life. So the real authentic prayer came to me, and a rose, is that a rose? Came to me when I started to shut up. And when I did that and said, Lord, okay, I've spent 4 days bouncing on the ceiling. I'm tired. I just want now to just know what you want from me. And when he did that, he showed me something very interesting. He showed me a 12-ounce glass. And I've received these images sometimes when he informs me in my spirit. And in this glass, if you hold up a glass right now, a 12-ounce glass, you put your hand on top of it, just like that, and your hand below it, just like that, how the bishop is showing you. It feels safe. Because you know that glass is not going to break. You know that glass is carried. And you know that glass is really a part of you. I mean, the Lord was showing me that I was in that glass. And that we're all in that glass. And the Lord carries us in that way. And he also showed me this. When I get distracted, or when I feel like I don't want to be praying, or I don't want to feel prayerful, he draws that glass into himself, like drawing it into you. And he says, don't worry, I will take care of you. I am here and I'm taking care of your needs. And I do know you. And I know you implicitly. And so God showed me that type of love. So if you swing that glass, which is him swinging, if we felt like we're swung, if we felt like we're on our own, so to speak, just remember we are really protected by the invisible sides of our Lord. Can you see this? I'm an architect, so I see everything in my head. It's in images. But God gives us the freedom because he shows us that we are in a transparent glass. We can look out. We can make our own decisions. And so he comes to us in ways that are so patient and kind. And when I am out there, as everyone else is praying or ministering to people, I may not be the most kind person because I can see beyond what the Lord wants, but he is always responding in such a kind way. And he'll help me to respond to you in such a loving way. And through this lesson, I've learned how precious we are to our Lord. And that it's only us who run, but he still just wants to be with us and comfort us. So this gave me a great deal of confidence to know that I don't have to be perfect in prayer, but I know that I can try, and he'll be there, and he'll hold me, and he'll still carry me. So Bishop is speaking about prayer and his relationship with the Lord, and I'm speaking about the same thing, prayer, but do not be afraid. And that's, again, do not be afraid. I've been shown that over and over again. So I want you to, hopefully this afternoon, develop that relationship where God becomes your friend. And be free, because when you don't hold so much within you, you can give space to him.